just a minute.
Hello, welcome to New World Stress Disorder, the collective unconscious conscious. Welcome. We have Cookie and Jace with us so far, waiting on others to join. I thought I'd read a little paragraph here from the concept of the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is part of the psyche which can be negatively distinguished from a person unconscious by the fact that it does not, like the latter, owe its existence to personal experience, and consequently it's not a personal acquisition, while the personal unconscious is made up essentially of contents which have at one time been conscious but which have disappeared from consciousness through having been forgotten or repressed. The contents of the collective unconscious have never been in consciousness and therefore have never been individually acquired, but owe their existence exclusively to heredity, whereas the personal unconscious consists for the most part of complexes. The content of the collective unconscious is made up essentially of archetypes. The concept of the archetype, which is an indispensable correlate of the idea of the collective unconscious, indicates the existence of definite forms in the psyche which seem to be present always and everywhere. Mythological research calls them motifs in the psychology of primitives. They correspond to Levi Bruhl's concept of representations collectives, and in the field of comparative religion they have been defined by Hubert and Moss as categories of the imagination. Adolf Bastian long ago called them elementary or primordial thoughts. From these references, it should be clear enough that my idea of the archetype, literally a pre-existent form, does not stand alone but is something that is recognized and named in other fields of knowledge. My thesis then follows. In addition, our immediate consciousness of a thoroughly personal nature, and which we believe to be the only empirical psyche, even if we tack on the personal unconscious as an appendix, there exists a second psychic system of a collective, universal, and impersonal nature which is identical to in all individuals. This collective unconscious does not develop individually but is inherited. It consists of pre-existent forms, the archetypes which can only become conscious second, and which give definite form to certain psychic contents. Okay. Whew, that was a mouthful. So, okay, here we go.
Hello.
Anybody want to start here?
I was waiting for Google to stop beeping at me. It keeps making beeping noises every now and then. Maybe that's its collective unconscious trying to wake itself up or something.
Yeah.
If it crashes out, then it crashes out. It's been very creaky the past several days. Always changes.
Mine has too.
They keep making changes and then needing to be updated, and then the updates glitch. It's just like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I click the button and hope for the best that it still works.
Mm-hmm. It's like Thursday night, I kept clicking live and it wouldn't go live, so that was a nightmare. Okay.
We are here now, yes. And thank you for reading that.
Oh,
I'm in two minds. I'm in collective conscious and unconscious, but I was just going to say I'm in two minds as to whether I really agree with the idea that they're there from birth, like genetic memory kind of thing. I think in that respect I'm more inclined towards that kind of epigenetics principle. Rather than you being born with the memory of such and such, so that then becomes the archetype in that way that he's describing. But, I think the base drive principles are probably what then grow into what we anthropomorphize into archetypes. So the you know, the drive to eat would be personified in your mind as a caricature that represents that kind of principle in a way that your subconscious can actually process it. So in your dreams, because this is what, you know, Jung was more interested in, the subconscious and unconscious, what was going on down there. In your dreams, rather than you just dreaming about eating something, it would be represented in some kind of symbolical caricature fashion, such that your subconscious can process what was going on, but really it's bubbling up from those base drives, if that makes sense, rather than being it's not, how else to put it, I don't think we have a genetic memory of the importance of pyramids.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
I think it's more that we have accumulated a very deep-seated comprehension of the usefulness and validity of those kind of solids, platonic solids kind of things. And in the sense that the pyramid itself was one symbol, that's so proven itself that it's become ingrained in such a way that it's like down at that archetypal level, in the same way as like the archetype of the old wise man. That's a socially developed thing that we have caricatured into that image. That's why it worked so well on the tarot cards, because, you know, Jung's ideas lends a lot from other aspects of what is commonly called occultism. You know, those kind of deep-rooted symbolic meanings and the connotations that they can represent. They can have multiple meanings rather than just the simple, you know, shape of the design or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, all science is considered occult until it's sort of understood, isn't it?
Yeah, occulted just means overshadowed or hidden, in the sense of it's not yet fully revealed such that you genuinely know it. There's a difference between a theory and a knowing. Yeah? A theory has to be tested again and again and again until it proves itself, then you can know what the thing was saying to you, if that makes sense. So to me, it's always been, I shouldn't say always been, caveating myself, for a long time, when people say occult, I don't think of people in robes doing odd rituals and, you know, nasty stuff like it's usually portrayed in the Hollywood bullshitism. But it's more this dealing with knowledge that is not readily revealed in the sort of general populace.
Yeah, but by occult I kind of meant mystical, you know, maybe known as by initiates.
This is why I think this is why Jung sort of tried to present it in the way he was, because the kind of stuff he was talking about relates to the kind of stuff that was often represented in occultism in its various forms, whatever particular version of magic people were supposedly doing and whatever. They were constantly reiterating these symbolic forms, these archetypes. And Jung was just approaching it from a different direction and almost, sorry, I say almost scientific, just simply because it's an area of development where you don't have that kind of hard science quantitative data, I should say, rather than qualitative. So he's trying to talk about it from a point of view of how you can identify and differentiate between these different aspects such that you end up being able to sort of point at the different archetypes and say that comes from this root, that comes from this root, etc. You know, occultism was doing exactly the same thing, but doing it behind an air of mysticism and secret knowledge that was only known to the initiated few and stuff like that.
Yeah, and secret clubs and stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah. Knowledge like that shouldn't be kept secret from people, in my opinion, you know.
Well, that's our main power is through secrecy, it's through keeping knowledge from the rest of us.
knowledge is supposed to be shared with the world, so what good's that knowledge doing them, keeping it secret, just using it for themselves, that's selfish.
Yeah, but to them it's an advantage. It's a business advantage. To them it's an asset. They don't think like us.
They don't think in the abundance and shared use of and stuff like that. Not at all. No. It's always a central facing, a central directing intention.
Well, there seems to be two really distinct types of human being on the planet. There's people, normal people who we would class ourselves as probably, and the psychopath. Now we look identical, but the psychopath can mimic emotion but can't feel emotion, and they have an absolute craving for power. The really intelligent ones and the really bad psychopaths get to the top of the biggest organisations. Low-level ones go for power over people in any form they can get it. Typically, police officers and things like that.
Yeah.
But
abusive relationships even.
Yeah, we need to recognise the fact that there are psychopaths and sociopaths who are somewhat lesser psychopaths and normal people. That's why we sometimes can't understand why certain people behave the way they do, or people we know might do something that you wouldn't do, something that goes against your grain. They lack empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone here familiar with the 7 Sermons to the Dead by Jung?
What was that again?
Carl Jung wrote a book, 7 Sermons to the Dead.
No,
No?
Say again.
What was it about?
I don't know, mate.
I'm sorry.
No,
it was
no,
about.
no.
It was about the Emerald Tablets.
Oh, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've read those.
Hermeticism.
Yeah.
Like Carl Jung, he did an interpretation of the tablets, and Sir Isaac Newton, and there was a few others that I can't think of right at the moment. But, I mean, he was talking about Carl Jung there a moment ago. And I just wondered, if that book had come across your desk at some
Not
point.
yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. I know he was loosely linked in with the Theosophical Society. So for me, the connections come in that aspect, and why I think you can see the occultism and those kind of principles in some of his work and what he was talking about.
Yeah. If you want to see what somebody's trying to accomplish, look at their associates.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. So Carl Jung and what was that?
And look at where they went to school, especially. Look at where they were educated. Definitely, their associates. Where they spend time. That'll tell you the whole story, pretty much.
Who was that other psychiatrist or that was around when Jung was? Freud. They rubbed elbows, right?
Freud taught Jung initially.
Yeah.
Jung was a student of Freud until he went his own way once he got his
degree.
I was thinking, what is it they call it when they get tenured? Like a tenured position with a college or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, and Freud was the uncle of Edward Bernays, who was considered the father of modern advertising propaganda.
You see how it all links together. I know It's one of those things that I classically come back to, but it's had a lot to do with what I usually call the technocracy. And I'm not just using the word to describe a principle, a concept. This is not a concept. This is something that they are actively working towards. And a lot of these names are all intertwined into that hierarchy that has been pushing towards this technocracy. Part of the principle is to make you think that you are just a unit within the machine. Therefore, you'll go along with this gradual process of them merging you into the machinery such that you become just a commodified unit of production or whatever else.
All the while, everybody's unaware that their reality is a product of a few hundred, up to 1,000 or so think tanks and non-government organisations.
Because we could link together Jung with Freud, with Bernays, with Aldous Huxley, with Blavatsky, with Crowley. All these names that for a lot of people, you know, they might have some awareness of, some knowledge about whatever, but they are intertwined in a weave in the pattern of the real push for a direction to push society. They've been pushing this direction for a long time. H.G. Wells, Newton, you know, they've all been part of this new age. You know, again, could reference that cliche of the New World Order. It's not the New World Order, it's the Old World Order in a new set decoration. And those that have been pushing for this have been more overt in their attempts ever since the beginning of the New Age, which was the Renaissance period. That was when they claimed enough power globally to be able to really institutionalize and direct this in a more concerted sense. Yeah? So the New Age was the beginning of the Renaissance.
Yeah, I agree, Cookie, totally. Nothing new about the New World Order at all.
In saying that, I don't want to give the wrong impression that I'm against science or a Luddite, or I'm an anarcho-primitivist that wants to live in a cave or whatever. I'm not, but I feel strongly that when I reference technocracy and what we've been saying about Jung's repurposing knowledge that came originally from occult sources or hidden sources, he has in many ways repurposed a lot of that knowledge. This is all tied into this continued agenda narrative to push us towards a certain construction, way of being.
Aldous Huxley wrote extensively on that, and he talked a lot, gave a lot of talks about that as well. The technocratic, elite, the way that the technocratic society will be run. His movie, A Brave New World, is quite accurate considering how long ago it was made. And in my own opinion, I think we're living in like a cross between Orwell's vision and Huxley's version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking the same for a few years. We're in a transitionary period from 1984 into Brave New World. And what we're experiencing, a lot of the problems that are going on in the world is the result of them attempting to consolidate and globalize for that final structure to start emerging, the kind of Brave New World structure to emerge.
Yep, and they want a whole lot less of us around. That for sure is happening.
Potentially, yeah. The way they're making everybody weaker and sicker, even though they're extending your lifespan. For the majority of people, that extended lifespan will be spent in some form of sickness or illness. So
forced medication is a violation of a very basic fundamental right of living. I mean, nobody should be forced or medicated anything, from fluoride, let alone vaccines. You can see where they're pushing with this. We know the damage that vaccines can do. And we've seen it. If you look into it enough, you can certainly link vaccines to a lot of the modern diseases that have emerged over the last 40, 50 years. But it's not just vaccines, as we know. The vectors of the depopulation are many. You know, we have the weather being used against us with geoengineering. We've got chemtrails sprayed on us daily, pretty much. We have poison for pharmaceutical industry. We have poison for food production industry. They add poison to the water, so yeah.
And now they're trying to bypass your choice with your wallet because, they tried to nudge people. They tried to socially engineer people, and it's been quite successful to a large degree to purchase water in bottled form, which gave them the ability to guarantee that you were getting the chemically adjusted version of water. And now they're bypassing your choice completely by doing fracking, which means they've got the opportunity to pollute the water table before it even gets put into a bottle.
That's right. Yep. And then all those years a child spends at school, you know, from a very young age, it's not just obedience training, but it's authoritarianism training in there as well, so that they won't question any perceived authorities. You can see that's really a major component. You know?
Oh, yeah.
School isn't for education; it's a conditioning camp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had a problem with me trying to read.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You wouldn't fit in the mould properly.
They don't like thinkers and question askers.
Yeah, for sure.
If they can't get you into the mould, they beat you so hard with that psychological hammer to try and make you get into the mould that
That's
often
right.
they break children to the point that they become what is now commonly termed, an unruly child, ADHD, ADD, whatever other label they can stick on it, so that then they can put a chemical in them to deal with this problem that they generated in the first place.
Yeah.
Now they've added pharmaceuticals to their weapons now, because when they identify a child who has the potential for leadership and thinking, independent thinking, they can just medicate him until he's one of the flock again.
But the kids are wising up nowadays, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Teenagers.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Have you seen, I know this might be a bit of a weird association, but have you seen the kind of cats that are called ragdoll cats?
Yes.
They seem to have lost their, it's been bred out of them deliberately. This is my point of raising it. The breeders have managed to capture the element of the psychology of the animal such that as soon as you pick it up, it just goes floppy. It relaxes so completely that you can handle them like a rag doll.
The same thing they did to the modern man, Cookie.
Exactly, that's what I was using.
They break the spine out of them.
Yeah. They want people that are completely mouldable, so that then they can put you in these moulds this is Brave New World, Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. They can give you a role in society, and they put you into that role, and you go about it like a good little worker drone. No chance of you absconding or changing your mind of something. No, you just go and do what they want you to do.
Yeah, I like the way you put that together, Cookie. Transitioning from 1984 into Brave New World.
It took me a few years to realise that, because I first read 1984 when I was still in school. I was about 14 or 15 years old, and at the time I was surprised they had it on the shelf in the school library, but they did. You know, Animal Farm and Lord of the Flies, you were usually taught those in school if you did English literature or whatever, but 1984, that was never mentioned. I just found it one day in the library when I was looking for something to read. After reading that, I had this idea, like I think a lot of people do, that, you know, all this is that frightening, nightmarish future that we don't want to get to. You know, it's somewhere off in the future somewhere, and as long as we're careful, we'll never end up in that bad situation.
Yeah.
But over the years of looking into this stuff, I've realised, I feel, that really what Orwell was describing, and again, we can link Orwell into Huxley and Jung and that crowd we just talked about. Orwell was describing the environment he lived in already, and he wrote that book in the 60s. So what he was talking about was his own personal experiences of working at the BBC, and he dressed it up in this sci-fi novella to disguise what he was actually trying to say to people. And what he was actually saying to them is, this is the reality of the world you live in. They're already watching you in one way or another. I know in the story it's described in a much more sort of overt, in-your-face fashion with the big TV screens and all that kind of stuff. But that literal sense of 1984 is now here, absolutely here. Yeah. But what he was really trying to describe to people was that you live in a environment where your sense of reality is manipulated by the establishment. You're given what they want you to think reality equals. Every day you watch that TV programming, they are telling you what reality is.
Yeah.
So what he was describing was, for him, a present day environment, not somewhere off in the future, not a possible we might get that like that. No, it was already there. And the more I thought about it and I looked at what was going on in the world as we'd gone over the last 10 years in particular, I was like, yeah, we are already in 1984. And what they're actually trying to push us into now is that more extreme version of it that Huxley was talking about, where they've got almost absolute control.
Yeah.
Check this out, Cookie. My 10th grade English teacher had several copies of Brave New World, or 1984, and passed it out to the first kids in the front row, and once they handed it back to the next person. Well, I think we had 3 or 4 weeks to do that, and instead of having to go to the library, the English teacher, she was on the ball, man. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't get to read Brave New World until in the late 90s. Yeah, Brave New World. So, you know, it was, I mean, that really hit home for me then. You know, I knew something was up.
Yeah, it's about the same for me. Right? I think mid to late 90s was when, for myself, a lot of the ice wall started to fall away, let's put it that way. And I started to see things much more clear fashion. Or, you know, people will argue about it, whatever, but that's the way I felt it was.
Yeah.
And then after 9/11, that pretty much settled it for me.
I remember standing in my living room in 1979 looking at my payroll check and the amount of taxes they had taken out of it, and nobody was there, and I remember saying out loud to myself, I'm just a slave. And you know, I put it back in the envelope and left it for the old lady, you know, to take care of shit. And, but you know, I didn't even have no more time to think about it. You know, I had to go to work and all that. You know.
Yeah, the hamster wheel keeps us running.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good in your guts when you make that realization, does it?
Sure doesn't.
You don't.
That's when you first start seeing the invisible bars, the invisible walls that you know are there, and you know no one can see them.
Referencing it back to the kind of Jungian topic, the collective unconsciousness, I think this is why I've liked a lot of his work and the direction he comes at it from and stuff like that. Like I have with a lot of the names I've mentioned earlier. But trying to get that across to people in such a way that they're not immediately frightened by it because of all the other connotations that come along with it. It's like, oh, you shouldn't read that kind of stuff, it'll make you evil, all this silliness. But trying to get across to people that maybe the process that we're describing is the way Jung was trying to describe it when he's talking about how as you become more aware of those archetypes that are in the deep-rooted parts of your unconscious, the more you see of reality around you. You can't see those bars until you become aware that they're there in the first place. If you're being pushed along by a base, to put it in a simple example, if you're being pushed along by a base drive to consume, to eat, then all of a sudden you wake up in your mid-40s to realise that you're 200 pounds overweight and you've got diabetes and this, that and the other. That's that self-realisation of a deep-rooted desire that was overtaking, overriding, usurping your personal choice. So it's that deep-rooted archetype was in control of you, not your true self.
Yeah, Cookie, what you were saying just before, it just reminded me a hell of a lot of Plato's cave.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to explain Plato's cave for the folks, just in case they don't know?
Living in a fantasy reality based on an illusion created for you, a pseudo-reality created for you. In the original storyline, the way he tells it, it's people chained up in a cave such that they can only look at one wall of the cave. And on that cave wall, there's a fireplace behind them, so that on that cave wall, anything that passes between their back and the fire creates a shadow on the wall. And people come through with different shadow puppets kind of things, so that it gives this silhouette appearance on the wall. And the only reality those people in the cave know is what they see on that wall, are projected on that screen. Think of televisions and programming, etc. And what I was talking about earlier of what you know of reality is given to you by the environment that teaches you what reality is. So if you grow up in a reality where they constantly tell you that the sky is green, and then you go out amongst everybody else and you say, isn't the sky really nice and green today? And everybody will go, what are you on about? It's blue. Because everybody else has been taught that what they see up there is called blue, not green. Whereas you've been taught it's called green. So you've got a misidentified, misdirected version of reality compared to the reality that everybody else knows. So TV programming like Plato's Cave attempts to show you a version of reality that they want you to accept. This is reality according to them, according to what's projected on that cave wall. So when you become aware of that and you start looking for the information for yourself, like in the original story by Plato, people escape the cave, and when they walk out, they're blinded by the light of reality, kind of thing. It gets a bit more sort of esoteric and spiritual in that sense, but it's more talking about that aspect of your reality being molded by what you perceive reality to be. That gives an opportunity for a middleman to intercede and fuck up with what you think reality is.
Yes.
I could as well say,
thanks, Cookie.
I could say as well, it does connect into the kind of description that Jung's talking about again as well. The cave is the aspect of the unconscious that you don't yet recognize as being a shadow play. But it's a shadow play that leaves its footprints in your mind such that it influences what direction you choose to go.
Yep. And in that story, one of the people escapes the cave and sees the outside world and comes back in to tell the others what the real world's like.
And they don't believe
him. They attack him.
Yeah.
Because they think it's the shadows of what they see.
Yeah, much like, trying to convince people what's going on in the world today, they don't want to see it. because of the reality they've been fed off the TV.
Yeah.
And we're not. I prefer to say media now, because the fact that for a lot of people, well, I mean, we're doing it now using the internet. Yeah. For a lot of people, it's not TV anymore. It could be a gadget they hold in their hand, but the media, and the English language is very deliberately constructed in this fashion. The media that they're consuming, looking at, taking in, absorbing, whatever, is the controllers are attempting to use that media in a similar fashion. So, a good example, you see all the various revealing videos about such and such ritual Illuminati video about some latest music industry song. You know, music artist puts out this video and it's got loads of pyramids and one eye in it and all this kind of stuff, and everybody's looking at it going, look, it's obviously all this Illuminati symbolism. And on one level, yes, that's true. But on a deeper level, what they're actually seeing is a reinforcement of those archetypes.
Yes.
So the controllers are attempting to use the media, the cultural media, cultural manipulation, to create an idea in your head of what is going on in reality. And the idea they want to impress on you strongly is the power of these symbols that they're showing to you. So when they show you a successful music artist, and why is he successful? Oh, it's because he's got loads of pyramids and eyeballs in his videos. Oh, well, we'll do the same then. So you create this upswell and direction of energy that I feel is somewhat what Jung was talking about, in the sense of he ascribes it to like an inherited memory. I don't think it is as simple as just that it's inherited. I think there's more going on that is partly this kind of cultural manipulation where they reinforce, they play on certain aspects and they reinforce the version of that aspect that they want you to believe. So like Benet's perfected playing on people's subconscious drives of hunger and sexual appetite and stuff like that to sell them product, that's exactly the same thing they were doing then. They take those base archetypes, they mess with the meaning of them, and then give you this messed up version. The messed up version makes you think, oh, I want to buy cigarettes, and Benet's is there to sell you cigarettes. Isn't that coincidental? Yeah. But this is what they're doing with that manipulation of the mass media to steer people through cultural reinforcement of certain aspects that they want you to believe. Doesn't mean it's reality, it's just the shadow play on the wall.
I've heard it said before that media is just simply another arm of government.
Yes, yeah, it is, absolutely. Yeah. Mainstream media absolutely is. Yeah.
Made in UK posted a comment there, typical of this social driving that you were talking about, and he says the risk of radicalisation is being linked to children who are homeschooled, says the Independent newspaper now on Sunday.
Well, I've been waiting to happen over the past few weeks, actually. I've been in the subtle rhetoric when you're listening to the political talking heads on the TV, there's this subtle rhetoric about radicalisation for exactly that kind of reason. They've been pre-programming and seeding the public to accept that the internet is dangerous because it causes people to be radicalised, yeah? And they're trying to simplify that message down to such a point that what I've been expecting them to happen is to announce that the internet causes a disease called radicalisation. And what they'll start trying to say to people is basically it's like a virus, and if you even look at it, you'll instantly be radicalised, like Ebola. You know, you'll get radical Ebola.
That'll probably be in the psychiatrist's diagnostic handbook next year, Cookie.
No doubt.
And you'll have sub-classifications, right? If you think things are hoaxes, you could be radicalised.
Yes, that's been part of the pattern that I've been watching, right, is the way they've been connecting certain words and certain demographic groups of people, primarily on the internet, but it links into off-air stuff as well. But one of the sort of little little stepping stones that I saw. This is going back several months now. Earlier this year, when there was one lot of beheading videos that were doing the rounds. You know, those the sort of slew of beheading videos they'd put out that became more and more ridiculously hoaxy as they went along. You know, it's why we ended up with the meme of them beheading Santa Claus, because the hoaxes just got sillier and sillier. But when they initially first started this tirade of propaganda, Cameron, I think it was Cameron, one of the UK parliamentarians, made this statement where basically it didn't say it directly, it was said in sort of lawyer speak, but what he implied was that if you even look at these videos online, you'll be flagged up on the terrorist watch list. So that to me was a reverse psychology attempt to get you, the viewer, to go and look at those videos, so that then later on in the year, like they've been doing, the government can turn around and say, look at how many people are going to look at this stuff online. They're being radicalised. It's dangerous. We need to shut down the internet. Now, shut down the internet is an extreme, but they're demanding more and more control over what you can and can't do online.
They're already doing it now, Cookie, by pulling revenues from people who make videos like that. You know, deleting videos on the flimsiest of complaint.
That's the big
filtering of search results going on as well.
Yes. Yeah. I would say the removal of monetization based on topic alone at the discretion of the YouTube providers, because that's what they put in the terms and conditions basically. So anything we consider sensitive, that is the first, or not necessarily the first part, but that's part of the initial social engineering attempts. So this is the soft version of them trying to control what's going on. It will eventually switch gears, and it will be more like what's happening in China at the moment. If you post something that the government feel they don't like, you will be given some kind of electronic ASBO, so you'll be banned from the internet or some shit like that.
Oh, for sure. This is their playground, and they will change the rules whenever they want.
Yeah. I think this is why there's been an increasingly overt attempt to get people like ourselves, I'm using the royal we deliberately, to stop doing what we're doing, because they want domination of this environment so that the general populace isn't open or witness to criticism of the government. So if you even criticise the government, they're trying to social engineer you out of the environment such that the public only hears what they want them to hear. Again,
well, Cookie,
Plato's character.
I've also been mulling this over lately. A lot of these hoaxes and that are so poorly done, I sort of can't help thinking that they're done that way deliberately in order to identify the thinkers.
As the hoax meme, but this is the way I've been seeing it, and it's built up certainly over this year. Again, 2015 has been a major year in terms of their taking over dominance of the internet in a propaganda sense. As the hoax meme rolled on, ever since Sandy Hook, because I do think Sandy Hook was near enough an outright hoax. If anyone got hurt there, I'd be very surprised. It was a stage play, yeah. But from that, they've created a fertile ground of ambiguous evidence, such that wherever they roll out next, whether it be false flag or hoax, or they just tell you about a genuine event that occurred somewhere, but they call it terrorism. That it's created this atmosphere such that if you call it one thing or the other, you're then putting yourself in these little pigeonholes which they've already prepared a method to deal with you. And the hoax one has led. Recently there was that professor who's been fired. Trying to remember his name. He did a lot of work.
Just joking.
he did a lot of work on the Sandy Hook stuff, but he recently got fired for that very reason, because of his views on Sandy Hook.
Was that Fitzer?
I can't remember. Sorry, it's just slipped out my head at the moment. But my point being that the hoax label has now nicely been socially manoeuvred such that for the main mass of the public via the mainstream media, all they've got to do now is talk about those terrible Sandy Hook truthers, the Sandy Hook hoaxers that are so horrible and evil because they're pestering the parents and making their lives miserable and all this kind. So now, if they do carry out a hoax, the main mass of the public is convinced that it's an act of terrorism, whereas anybody who questions that's a hoax instantly gets put in this ostracized box where the mainstream will tell the public, oh, they're just horrible people, they're radicalized, they're potential terrorists, they're dangerous, don't listen to anything they say. So it's worked very much in their benefit to create this compartmentalized pigeonhole, basically. As soon as you question, oh, you're a hoaxer, put you in that hole. So it's like the conspiracy theorist label, it's a deliberate derogatory label.
They don't make stuff up, Scooby. No, you're right.
They knew when they first started making the web, the internet, into what it is now. They knew that there would be this knock-on effect, this collateral fallout effect. So they've had games in play, strategies, maybe I should say, because it's not
in plain sight. Again, in plain sight, it's called the web. It's a net, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at Facebook. People give up their information willingly. Their pictures, their location. Their brother, mother, father, sister. Everybody. They give it out willingly.
Loves and hates, and the things that frighten them, and the things that they're worried about. All this personal information, mapping the human terrain.
Yep.
Yeah, desensitizing them to giving up all information on a regular, constant basis.
Now, in the UK, I remember a few days ago, I think it's 2 or 3 days ago, I saw them talking about this was Germany and the Netherlands, I think. They're going to begin treating stuff on the internet in social media as being more of an absolute in terms of prosecution and stuff like that. Yeah. So if you post something that they consider to be hate speech or extremist or whatever, that's it. There'll be no more questions anymore. You'll just be arrested and prosecuted under whatever particular law. So they are in effect announcing, this is the way I view it, they're announcing that they are now closing the doors on a European version of the Chinese firewall. Here in the UK, we've had very similar rhetoric. And,
that just happened to a Canadian YouTuber that I know. He's going to court now over criminal charges.
Yeah. I think I'm not sure when the next election will be here in the UK, but I think they're going to try and push this through before they change government, I think. But Theresa May has been almost saying it directly again, because it's politicians, you know what they like, they speak in tongues. They won't say things directly, but she's said it in many different ways several times now over the last year or more, that they're going to be in effect creating the same kind of environment, again, as Chinese firewall, where there will be a safe space version of the internet. Citizen, you'll be allowed to make use of this technology called the internet, but if you say anything that the establishment don't like, you'll get booted out of that safe space, and there'll be no internet for you.
Yep.
There's that Corbett report.
I'll happily take no internet, thank you.
I linked that Corbett report earlier on today, where he's talking about in China they're bringing in this sort of social media incentive scheme, where people using certain online services, you earn points for the services that you use, but only if you're a good citizen, basically. So they're now starting to introduce, they call it gamification, where by adding these points
in the future, dude, you probably wouldn't be able to get a job if you didn't have a Facebook account.
No, it's near enough like that now, and a lot of employees in the UK will ask for your Facebook profile, and they check your Facebook profile.
Well, check this out. If they do shut the internet down to a large majority or even a minority here in the United States, I've been thinking about the blowback on that. Is like, would people be out in their front yards doing more talking, you know, at the barbershop, at the friggin' Walmarts and stuff?
Yeah, that's probably why that would never happen here, you know, because it would get people out talking with others.
You're right, Beck.
I'm hoping it would. Yeah, that's part of my optimism of them. The more they crack down, the more people they wake up. It's what happens once people start waking up. That's the crux of the situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one thing to start realizing that you're being lied to and they're trying to manipulate you and all this kind of. It's another thing with what you do with that realization and where you go from there.
Yeah, you're right.
I really do hope. I'm optimistic and hope that more people do start directly interacting. We talked about it often in the past, you know, not relying on this internet environment because it's not going to be like this forever.
Well, I try and do as much of that as I can. Whenever I'm out, I talk to somebody on real terms at a real level. You know, I make a point of it. I don't give a fuck if they think I'm a nutter or what. I don't care if they roll their eyes or, you know, and they don't dare do that to me anyway. They'll smile and nod politely, if anything. You know, whatever they think. But, yeah, I make a point of doing that every day. And I'm a little bit hopeful. I do see a few thinkers here and there where I never used to see any before.
Yeah, I do as well. But it's doing that dance with the system, because like what we've just been saying about how they were ready for people waking up, you know, all the hoax stuff and whatever. I think in a similar fashion, they feel that they're ready to deal with people even when they start turning away from the internet. So that's why I call it a dance. Because as soon as you start thinking you've got all the answers, you're deceiving yourself. Yeah, you've got to constantly reevaluate and check your direction and stuff like that, because they're not daft, they're not dumb, they're not stupid. If they were, we wouldn't be in this situation we're in now. Exactly. They wouldn't be on the verge of global control if they were a bunch of dumbasses.
If you don't question yourself, you're setting yourself up for a fall. You know.
Yeah. They're playing they're playing multi-level chess, and they're trying to keep
4 or 5th dimensional chess.
They're trying to keep the majority of the population in a 2-dimensional mindset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flat Earth springs to mind in that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, let's not open that can of worms.
No.
That was running around rife.
And 2-dimensional as well, like the shadows on the cave wall in Plato's cave. They want people to be stuck looking at that and not realise the everything else that's going on around them.
Yeah, they caught up in a thing they can never answer, they can never know for sure, and they waste a hell of a lot of time over it. It's ridiculous. Now, what the fuck difference would it make anyway?
Yeah, round or flat. When one of these bastards stabs you with a knife, it's still going to
found out it's flat. The elite, elite, we're all going to have to give up now. It's like, give up your mansions. They know it's flat. You know, that's not going to change a damn thing, Cookie.
I think it's good as kind of like a brain exercise, you know, because it helps you get to grips with the fact that there are unknowns out there, and there are things that we haven't proven yet, and stuff like that. You know, science is not absolute; it doesn't have all the answers. Blah blah blah. So it's good for that kind of aspect, but.
It's almost nonsensical fantasy, Cookie. You know, if you want brain exercises, you know, think about the electric universe and their concepts. That makes a whole lot more sense than the magic invisible things that aren't really there.
Yeah, like lizards in positions of power. You know, they want you to think about the fantasy kind of idea, so that you chase shadows. You're forever chasing a phantasm that when even you get close to grasping it, it just morphs into yet another phantasm. They want you doing that.
They know how we tick. We're the most studied creatures on the planet. They know that we love a good mystery, that we like to figure things out, so they'll give us those.
Yeah, you know? Exactly. Right. Spot on. I call it giving the dog a bone.
Yeah.
It's a dog pestering you.
Mind like a piano.
Keeps jumping up you, won't leave you alone. Give him a bone to chew on and keep him occupied for a few hours, you know.
Yeah.
If I could get mine to chew on a bone. He's a little guy. He won't even hardly mess with those chewies.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way I am, you know. That's, you know, y'all were saying something a while ago. What was it about? I can't remember now, but you know, I just kind of don't care, man, what they do, because of my attitude that I have toward life and death and consciousness and what have you nowadays. Which I don't want to say I believe it, because that's difficult for me to say nowadays, that I believe anything because of all the craziness that goes on. But that's kind of where I'm at on my path, you know.
Forget believing things, mate, and just stick with what you know.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, I do agree with you. I was just thinking, it gave me one of those metaphorical images in my head, which I was thinking about. It's like, I'm quite happy for the locusts to be locusts, to do what locusts do until they come rolling up into my field. And that's where, yeah, I agree with you, and I don't get obsessing over what all these crazy people are doing. But when the crazy people are influencing a herd of other people to come and trample over me, then I have to take notice, you know. And if I'm trying to deal with not being trampled, i.e. I'm trying to tell the herd to please don't trample over me, then as you work your way through back to the root of what started it, you get to these people, the crazy people. So
what's your idea about these so-called FEMA camps here in the United States? I don't know if they exist or not. I've watched several videos. Oh man, hold on.
Okay. There's different aspects about the FEMA camp things. Rebecca seems to be having a problem connecting.
Yeah, no, I just got a two-year-old running around the house.
How can I say this?
Yeah,
I'll try and reel off some of the ideas I've had over it, because I've seen similar videos and documentaries about it and all the classic old Alex Jones ranting about it and whatever. And I think there's that, similar to what I was saying ages ago about the 1984 thing, you know, the way you originally presented the idea as if it's a scary nightmare possibility. You know, it's somewhere off in the future, which we don't want to get to, so you're being warned about it now, kind of thing. But
really, it's only fear that's keeping us clinging to this system anyway. It's only fear that's doing it. In fact, fear is the biggest.
I think the
driving
camps
force
are the people that comply and run to the system for help if it goes pear-shaped. I mean, if people do start waking up and people do start taking to the streets and it does turn violent, then I think the FEMA camps are for the people that are stuck in it and maybe their houses are getting burnt down and stuff like that. That's what they'll try and use them for and make people, there's playgrounds in them and everything, so they're not going to do them for put people that are burning houses down and factories down. They're not going to put those people in there with playgrounds, are they? So what are the playgrounds for? You got to think that they're going to put families in there, and I think it'll be the families that are running away from the sheep, basically, that are running to the system to be swallowed up by it.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't think they build them for the fun of it.
You see Alex Jones and some other fella, was it might have been David Icke or Jesse Ventura. It was Ventura.
Yeah, Ventura.
They went up and there was a family out in the playground area of the what they were calling the FEMA camp. The documentary. Jones's thing. It led you to believe it was a documentary, and that there was a family of people, including children, out in the playground, and they even asked the people that come out to speak to them, to run them off, I guess, basically. What about that? I don't know if y'all saw that. It was Ventura had a show there for a couple of years.
I can't trust a thing out of Jones's or Ventura's mouth. Sorry.
No, that was
me
acted.
too.
Such a bit of acting that them peeping out of the bushes and looking at those containers. It was like something out of not even a B movie, like a Z movie.
We spotted some coffins.
It was WWF acting at its worst.
Yeah.
Or WWE, whatever they want to call it now.
In reality, we can just walk away and do something else. Really, it's as easy as that.
I think, apart from that kind of aspect of, like I said, being used as like a nightmare thing to wave at people to scare them and whatever, I think as well it was inevitable that if the system is trying to create an atmosphere, an environment of social instability, that's easily provable by all the stuff that's going on. If they're going to do
the system is your fellow human being who will stand on your head to get themselves out of the water.
But if they're going to do that, if they're going to create this atmosphere of riotous behaviour, then it's inevitable that at some point they're going to have masses of people that they need to put somewhere for a period of time. They've kettled this riot and they've got 1,000 people arrested. Where do they put them? They can't put them in the local jail cell because there ain't enough room. So they are pre-planning. This is FEMA is supposedly there to do this kind of shit. They're pre-planning situations where they're stuck
everywhere in World War II. They were in every country in World War II. Australia has, we've got portable ones, not built permanently, but they can be erected within a few hours, apparently.
They can be repurposed.
Cities are designed. There's only several. It's a handful of ways in and out.
Yeah. We've got a lot of empty prisons now since they built a couple of supermaxes and emptied a load of the prisons down south into bigger jails and
stadiums. They've always got a purpose.
Some of that Alex Jones aspect as well was deliberately. It was part of the propaganda towards creating this atmosphere of social instability. Because Jones being Jones, he's in the camera, red-faced, telling everybody it's all happening now. It's the end of the world right now. Look, run to the hills, grab your shotgun. So that's the kind of shit.
Behind and guard my family.
That's the kind of shit that gets people out in the streets, such that you would then end up inevitably needing a camp to put them in to inter them.
Oh, but don't forget to buy my shit, so you'll be safe.
He's a bell end, isn't he?
Don't mention the Jews.
Yeah, ever since he did that crazy shit with the Joker face, man, I was like, God damn, this guy's fucking crazy, you know?
Did you see the David Duke interview with Alex
Yeah,
Jones?
Alex.
Yeah.
Oh no, I didn't. I saw David Icke and Ventura and Jones. I believe
I
no.
think it's the only video Jones has ever pulled from YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was this now?
It's David Duke. Alex Jones interviews David Duke.
Oh, okay, all right. No, I didn't see it. I
You
don't
can
think.
watch that, and you can see chalk and cheese side by side.
Yeah.
Well, I heard he did an interview with Trump that was kind of a kiss ass kind
Trump,
of situation.
man,
I
if the
haven't seen it yet.
establishment's letting him speak, he's not to be trusted.
Yeah.
Okay?
A really good example of how
They
he is
give him a
part of the
platform.
mainstream
You can't
media.
trust him.
He's just another branch of the mainstream media.
Yeah.
To pretend to
The
be
Fabian
alternative.
Society, their logo is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and they will supply your leaders every time,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah. And that's too bad because that's what's going on over in Africa, man.
It's
You know, that's
aliens.
just the saviour program. You see, it doesn't just work with the Jesus Christ thing. It works for politicians and military generals and rebels. Anybody they want to apply it to. The saviour program. So everybody sits back and does nothing, waiting for somebody else to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've been trained to do that.
They throw it on the military then, when all else fails, I guess.
What's that, mate?
I said they throw it on the military when all else fails.
Well, yeah, I don't know. All the military are mercenaries, really. You know, a soldier is just a mercenary. They're paid to
Oh yeah, yeah.
shoot people. That's a definition of a mercenary. There's nothing heroic in that.
Yeah, I don't see American troops here in the United States pulling military or martial law. I see Chinese and Taiwanese and Japanese over here.
But you realise that they could crush you economically in 3 days before they even have to move a troop.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
You'd end
Yeah,
up
within
killing
3 days,
yourself.
they would have you begging for troops. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Within 3 days, they'll have you killing each other for a tin of spam, a tin of beans.
Yeah.
This is why I think again, this is another Jonesyism, talking about the movement of troops and breaking posse comitatus and all that. So they don't really need to do any of that shit. If they want to kill off a whole load of you, they just turn the water off, turn the electricity off, turn the internet off, stop delivering the food to the supermarkets. You'll all be killing each other within 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Then the shit really hits the fan.
Yeah. I think this is, I've been talking about this for a while now because I've been sort of seeing it in a slightly different aspect, or trying to look at it from a different direction to try and figure out what's going on, kind of thing, chewing the bone.
Yeah.
But why the way they keep talking about the gun rhetoric in the USA, and how whenever they talk about and they threaten to take your guns away, gun sales spike. So in effect, what they're doing in a reverse psychology fashion, good Banasian trick, is actually tricking all the American citizens into buying more weaponry.
Exactly.
So they're getting everybody in this mindset of being afraid of each other because they might have been radicalised online, civil unrest because the government's so nasty we got to go and protest, and every other person at the protest has a gun. It only takes one person to start shooting and all hell breaks loose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's their motto? Order out of chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when after 4 days and all the food out the supermarket is gone and people are killing each other, when those troops come rolling in down the street, they'll be like the cavalry coming over the hill, and everybody will be there going, save us from ourselves. It's
And you'll get
classic
the New
problem
Orleans
resolution.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's,
Sure, just, you know, get on that bus and
yeah, and there's an answer to this, but I'm not quite ready to go into my stick on that. But I was hoping a little bit later here because of the title of the hangout about consciousness. I'll try to bring it up here a little bit later when I feel a little braver. Because I usually get hammered, man, when I start talking about consciousness.
Go right ahead, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Go right ahead. That's what it's all about.
Well, just to very quickly, a quick thought about it is that the more minds that we change, that in consciousness, you know, people that know. And you guys know the figure. It was 2 or 3% that started the Revolutionary War, and
a handful of Freemasons. Yep.
well, yeah. And I just learned about that just a few days ago that there was more Masons involved.
Started a
Freemasons.
war with a bunch of other Freemasons. That was pretty easy to organise.
Yeah. There's more of them than I realized that was in there.
Oh, there's a lot more to it than that as well.
Yeah.
Because the Freemasons are actually controlled by the Roman Catholics, who are controlled by the Jews.
Yeah. The Boston Tea Party was Freemasons, from what I understand. You know,
Dressed up as Indians,
huh?
Yeah.
What was that?
Dressed up as Indians.
Oh yeah, right, yeah. So
they went straight from the meeting place.
But if you know, if the majority, let's say there's 10 people here and it represents the entire world, and if 3 of us decided that this ain't the way it's going to be, you understand what I'm saying, right? This ain't the way it's going to be. We're going to do things differently. We still have to overcome 7 people. And if you're either going to do it by a sit down and talk, or self-realization there somehow or other, or violence.
Now you're talking about democracy, which is nothing but mob rule, and whoever has the verbal skills to convince the mob of their position, well, they have the power.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. What is the answer?
10 people, why can't 10 people do their own thing as long as they do no harm to the others?
Exactly.
Out of your example of the 10 people in a room, I'm hoping, you know, this is the direction I work towards. Some people would call it idealistic, but I don't think there's anything wrong with being idealistic as long as you're realistic about not expecting a utopia. Yeah? But out of the 10 people in the room, one of them will be a psychopath. And I'm hoping, that the only person that you will end up having to use force and violence against to deal with will be the psychopath. So if there's only 1 out of the 10 that has to have some kind of force put upon them to deal with this situation, that's 1 out of 10. Yeah, and I'm even more hopeful in the sense that, you know, we can deal with this situation in a way that doesn't end up with having to outright kill people. Yeah. That's what the system itself does. Yeah.
If we take this back to the example, 1 out of 10 is a psychopath, but we're talking, you know, 7 billion people. What's the percentage of those son of bitches that are going to be psychopaths and sociopaths and just out and out stupid, you know?
Oh, about 700.
700?
Yeah, something like that. Might be a terribly huge figure.
Well, this is the thing. In that smaller data set, I'm left with the only choice I'm left with is saying 1 in 10. The reality isn't probably that low. It's probably higher than that. It's probably about 1 in 100 people is a genuine psychopath. Because I do think as well.
missing.
There is a difference between an entrained personality, in other words, you acting out psychopathic behaviour because of the way you've been treated or programmed to act, and somebody that I would call a true psychopath. You know, it doesn't matter if they've had a wonderful upbringing, a wonderful life, for some reason they just like killing other people.
That's probably the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath.
Yes, yeah, probably more likely, yeah.
Yeah,
but in that example of the data set of 10 people in a room, there's one person I feel that you'll probably end up having to deal with in some manner. Everybody else is more than likely, again, maybe I'm being idealistic, but everybody else, the other 9 people, all want to live, thrive and survive and be happy. Well, that's what they want.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you there, although I hadn't formulated.
If everybody agrees to behave lawfully, then there's no problem that can't be solved rationally and in a fair manner.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
punishment for crime
we're just kind of waiting for the governments, the psychopaths in the governments to kind of burn out. Maybe in one way or another.
A long time, my friend.
The idealistic. Can I put it this way? The idealistic magic bullet kind of thing, or magical event, for me, would be if all of a sudden all the people that were in the armed forces and the police forces and whatever other kind of authoritarian position turned around to their commanders and said no. And that happened. That happened in a ripple effect up the chain of the hierarchy until you got to the real psychopaths, who are the ones trying to make everybody kill each other. And when they refuse to give up their psychopathy, there'll only be a handful of them. And there'll be so many of everybody else, you'll just be able to lay hands on them and put them in a jail cell or put them on an island somewhere or some shit like that. That's my utopian magic bullet kind of thing. When that happens, that would be the real turning point as far as I'm concerned.
I think along those lines, Cookie, but I also think that just turning around and walking away from it all, the psychopaths will go out.
You got to leave that alone over there.
Child disobeying orders. Yeah, that's what I say. I know it's idealistic, but I'd rather be idealistic because I think it makes a good horizon to sail towards. Yeah, the end result might be a little bit messier than the ideal utopia, but head towards a utopia.
We have to hope for a reasonable outcome. I mean, what's the point of hoping for anything less?
Yeah, I'm not here trying to make a shitty outcome.
Yeah, any realist understands utopias only exist in communist propaganda.
Yeah. In fantasy novels.
Yeah, dreams, fantasies. That's right.
We're already in a utopia if we could stop killing each other.
Yes.
This environment you've been born into is a paradise if you'd stop killing each other.
Yeah.
Or controlling each other, or wanting to have more than each other, or out-competing each other.
That's a good point to bring up. Somebody posted somewhere on Google today, and it was a good video. It was a well-thought-out video, but it was mainly this gentleman was bringing up the fact that this young 13-year-old white girl was raped and burnt alive by, like, a bunch of black men, and it wasn't put in the media, and this was a year ago. Now, his frustration was in the fact that black media, Obama's not there to talk for it's black versus white, black versus white. Now, this is put this way by the media to keep you distracted, to keep you fighting, to keep brown versus white, black versus white, fight your little fights. There's going to be psychos out there that do fucked up shit. And this guy's like, where's Obama? Where's Obama when this happened? But
hell no. People will kill each other over differences of football teams.
Or shoes.
Yeah, and like there was that shooting. There was a shooting in South Carolina church where the families, I believe, were all paid some sort of restitution for the deaths of their family. And yeah, it's crazy, right? So they're paid I forget how much, let me look it up so I can screen share later. But yeah, they were paid a restitution. And I guess this gentleman was really upset that he's like, where's Obama? So there's a lot of people out there that will promote, I guess you call them trolls or shrills, to promote black versus white or Mexicans versus white, build a border, like focus on these little things so that you're not focusing on the fact that you are a corporate debt slave.
They're just politically correct de jure, you know, politically correct of the day. They're just doing it because they told us the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Follow us, not think it.
The misdirection of your anger.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hate the people who are the genuine root of the situation. No, hate each other. Hate that guy over there because he's a different colour to you. It's all his fault.
Yeah, that evil.
Exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He's dark. That'll work. That's different. And it does play into our primal tribal instincts, you know, that, you know, we're protecting ourselves, protecting our fire, protecting our young. What is that? That's strange. It's different. You know, it might make us sick. It might hurt us, you know, type primal protection that they know that we will innately feel. And so they feed into all those and also exacerbate it. You know, with the media, you know, with the PSYOP, with the MK Ultra. That's all.
I hate to say that even that primal urge is co-opted. Young mothers, they allow their babies, you know, not even a day old, to get jabbed with poisons. Yes. And they send them off to daycare, and they let the state raise them, and wonder why they, you know, they can't relate to their children.
Yeah. I was thinking, wondering why is my child trying to divorce me when they get to the age of 13 or 14? Because that's becoming a common thing now, where children are demanding their independence and, in effect, divorcing themselves from their own family.
That's what patriotism is. You're calling the state your father.
Yeah.
It becomes your father. Yeah. That's with the single mothers. They can all leave their men really easily because the state's there to take them in and give them money and resources.
Splitting up the family unit. And I'm just thinking as well, connecting that back to the topic, the kind of the Jungian unconscious thing and the archetypes. It's like getting you to pick that you're going to only be one particular archetype. You know, so now you're going to be the single mother archetype, and they've got the box there ready for you to live in, but it means you separate yourself from the rest of yourself. You know, because a self is not just one aspect, it's all the different aspects working together.
Yeah.
Family unit, in effect, the family that's in your mind.
Yeah, I'm a lover, I'm a fighter, I'm a hater, I'm a truther.
But wait, you can't do that.
I'm a seeker.
Yep. Spent a lot of years seeking too.
Even that has been just thinking about the propaganda of how they've tried to push people into one group or another. You know, you must identify yourself as one thing or another. Are you a free man? Are you a constitutionalist? Are you a birther? Are you a 9/11 truther? You know, so pick a box so that we can attack you.
Are you a label?
Yeah.
Do you ever ask a bird that question?
Yeah, what's your label?
Yeah. Are you a liberal bird? Yeah.
Got camera working, right?
Yeah, that was my daughter.
Hello.
Yeah, she said, "What do you look like on there?" I'm like, "Well, I got a shirt on, I got a hat on." She's like, "Well, I'll say hi."
We have to consider that we could be one of the last generations who are actually able to affect any real change at all. Mainly because we have a memory of what things used to be like, and we did have access to a lot of information that isn't available now. The internet has changed. I've noticed this over the last couple of years. Certain websites have just gone certain bloggers disappear, even certain YouTube accounts just disappear for no reason. These are always solid, truther places. I already think we have the Web 2.0 now. So in a way, it's up to us. It's the people who can remember what a sky without chemtrails used to look like. It's the people who used to
I can
live in
remember
a world where terrorism was not normal. You know, ever since 2000, every kid born since then knows nothing but a world full of terror and war. And chemically painted skies are normal, you know?
Yep.
It's us with a memory. We have to get that across.
It's another reason why I think we have to still keep doing what we have been doing. I don't mean that to sound like fixating of sort of like being a dinosaur kind of thing, but while the controllers are taking over so much of that movement of information, what is and is not allowed to be known and spoke about, you know, because political correctness is another way of controlling information. We've got to keep doing. We've got to keep doing exactly that. If they tell you to stop saying nigger, then you should say nigger more often. I know people, it's a difficult word and whatever for people to deal with, but to me it's a word. It's the connotations that make you feel uncomfortable because of the way it's been used and manipulated and blah, blah, blah. But it's just a descriptor, in the same way as any other word.
I call white people niggers.
Oh, I call white people niggers all the time. That's my or my husband sometimes.
I like calling people hate niggers.
Yep.
Call them what? Haters?
House niggers.
Haste?
Because house.
Oh,
House.
House niggers. House.
Yeah.
I'll put my other teeth in.
My girlfriend calls one of her sons when he's not working. She calls him house bitch. I'm like, oh man, don't do that. You know.
I call my husband white boy too, though. Mexican.
But it takes. In the way they've created in the environment of communication, in a real sense, it takes somewhat of an interaction, a length of time, and a bit of thinking for somebody to be in conversation with me and realise that I'm not using that word to be offensive or to belittle somebody for whatever reason, not at all. But in this modern environment of short attention span, 125 character limits communication, those kind of words can become extreme weapons. Political correctness makes them into weapons, so that all you have to do to start a fight is say one word. That's like a magic incantation. You know, say one word, people start fighting.
Especially in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up back in the '60s. Played football in high school, and there was black guys on all the teams. You know, basketball, football, the whole 9 yards. And if you said the word nigger, even in school, even in the hall, you know, and somebody overheard you, somebody was going to say something about it. Eventually, there was going to be a fight. There was always a fight the last day of school between some black guy and some white guy.
Well, that's school, isn't it? It's a frustrating place for kids to be, and I don't blame them for finding.
I guess I was reminiscing, you know, but I have a difficult time. When I had my own house, I was raising my little daughter. I was a single parent, and her people were the type of people that would say that, and I would just tell them, you know, you can either not say that or your ass can leave.
Man, I have it way worse than you. Where I live, right? Now, I hope there's no kids listening to this, please. Where I live, it's normal for people to call each other cunts. Yeah, g'day cunt.
I heard about that.
Cunt. Oh, that cunt's great. I like that cunt. It's fucking excellent, that cunt. But you go to Queensland and say, oh, you cunts have got a good up here. Get ready for a fight straight away, man.
Yeah.
We were talking about that.
That is not politically incorrect. That's not racist, man. It's a universal.
It's sexist. So
Yeah.
that's a phrase.
A lot of men cunts.
Talking about that the other night, that may have been derived from Kundalini.
Yeah, it's actually something that should be celebrated.
It's derived actually from. You know where it's derived from? I know this because I read it somewhere. The conch shell. In Latin or Latino or something, the conch shell, it looks a lot like it. Conchita. Yeah. That's basically, Conchita means little cunt, by the way.
Conchita Wurst.
Exactly. Little cunt sausage. Now they're rubbing that in your face, aren't they?
A good example of cultural media being used to socially engineer people and manipulate them on an archetypal level. Because you've just been shown
a hermaphroditic agenda where nobody is fertile and nobody is either male or female.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now that is
back in the 60s, there was still the connotation about slavery to using the word nigger.
I think there still is now, remember?
Yeah, but I mean, it was
a nigger's just a black.
No. Somebody come up with the idea. You know, that was fucking 2.5 centuries ago, or something like that. No, well, the Civil War was 18.
I imagine when it comes from Nigeria, the word Nigeria. You know?
Yeah, you get fucked up there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would do nowadays.
Yeah. So I mean, but I'm just saying that was the reason why people didn't want to, you know.
I didn't call them niggers in Africa. They call them Catholics.
I'd rather call a Catholic a nigger than before I would call a black man a nigger.
Do it the Aussie way, mate. It's safe. Just call everyone mate.
Yeah,
mate.
Yeah. I've been working on that, using that word when I'm chatting and when I'm texting and stuff, mate.
Yeah, I have to because I can't remember names too well.
I use it a lot, but please do be aware that it's another word for slave. Because a mate was a member of the ship's crew, and it became common parlance at a point where being shanghaied was still common practice. You know, being press ganged into service in the Queen's Navy, you became a mate in the crew.
Yeah. No, you got mated a bit up the bum too, like if you were the bigger shipmates.
But according to the what was you call it, political correctness, you know, I think the President of the United States or the Prime Minister of England could get up on the podium in front of the TV and could say mate, you know, without any. I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard that before.
Hit themselves in the head, but you know, that's just me.
I'd rather say my friend, you know.
I think it's another good example of how words are turned into weapons that in a counter Stockholm effect kind of way, they redirect your anger from the people that actually abused you onto each other instead. So these people that are angry, a coloured person, black person being angry with you because you use the word nigger. So I'm not oppressing you, mate. I'm not whipping you. I'm not putting you in shackles and trying to sell you to somebody else. Yeah. That was these guys. These guys have convinced you that by me saying that word, you now attack me. Yeah, it's misdirected anger. Your anger is righteous, and so it is for all the other slaves, not just the black slaves, but all the other slaves in existence ever. It's righteous anger for them as well. but you are misdirecting that anger because somebody uses a word that you've been programmed to react to.
I
And it
got
could be more than a word, a flag, or you know, anything like that.
Symbol.
You know.
Yeah.
I got a buddy
Yeah.
that comes by once or twice a month occasionally. Him and his wife have been having a little argument, and he's working a midnight shift on Saturday night. And Sunday morning, I get up and I drink a little coffee and smoke a cigarette or two. So he stops by, and you know, he calls me nigger.
Yeah.
I see you later, nigger. You know, I'm like, but I don't go by. I just thought of that, man, you know.
Yeah.
In
And
that
I take no
respect,
offense to it either, you know, really.
most of us are all niggers, you know, because we're all
Yeah.
still enslaved into the
Yeah.
system. I say most of us,
That's
because,
how-
you know,
He's showing you how comfortable he feels with you now. You know.
in terms of endearment.
Yeah, you get to say that without
Yeah.
feeling that you're being insulted or anything like that. You know. You know, if you're meaning it like that, of course.
I
No, I
get
can
that a
say-
lot when
You know,
a lot of my friends
person I
call me.
usually call nigger, I can say, "How you going, you black fucker?" And it'll still be a term of affection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of my old friends call me a hippie. So I don't take offence.
If I had hair, they'd call me hippie too, but I don't talk on now.
Most of the original
It must be
hippies,
the glasses, right?
fat-bellied, bald, conservative, suit-wearing corporate whores. A large
friends.
number of them are. You'd be surprised. You know, I think a sad result out of what the energy that was happening then back in the 60s, and that's what we've ended up with.
Yeah. And I heard somebody else say, I can't remember who
I
it
was
was now.
disappointed in you guys in the '60s, to be honest. You know.
They didn't pass the information along, the things they did right and things they did wrong to the next generation.
Yeah, that's true.
Not too much pot and forgot.
I think it could also be said that part of the reason for that is because it got suppressed by the system, by the establishment.
No, for sure.
I think the hippie revolution, in what it ended up as, the sort of love fest kind of thing that it ended up as, worked quite well for the establishment in the same way as like what they're doing now with other cultural movements that are happening now. They're trying to push people into this paddock that they've already got prepared for them, that seems nice and green because it's got all the nice politically correct labels attached to it. You know, it's got pink ribbons and unicorns and leprechauns, and they're all having a love fest. But when you get there,
It was
you're
all
nicely,
about
nicely
well,
encapsulated.
You're right. They tried that in the 20s, but it didn't work because they didn't have the medicine or the contraceptives. You had too many orphans and too many illnesses. But they had the medicines and contraceptives by then, so they pushed it out there. And that was a major contributor to the family breaking apart. Absolutely.
Now they're doing it with the metrosexual, transgender, individualist, non-family unit structure. They've pushed people. They've destroyed the extended family unit for the most part in most of the Western nations, certainly, and they're now just whittling away the last few components of the nuclear family. So you end up with just individuals who only get together to breed, and that soon's going to be taken away from you as well.
Yep.
Sounds terribly pessimistic, so
well,
could
it's
potentially.
It's the slow burn cookie. It's the boiling frog. It's the slowly catchy monkey. You know, they change things every few years, and nobody really notices until they turn around 30 years later and everything's ass backwards. One of the people who who are in on the writing the script for the world, it said, we can achieve more social change in 5 years of war than we can in 50 years of peace. So that will help you understand why we have sort of been at war for the last 100 years.
The war of terrorism. It's not
they
a
can
war
change.
against terrorism, it's a
so
war
true.
of terrorism.
Yeah, on us, on humanity.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And not just the awake ones either. It's the sheep are more scared than us. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's what's keeping them from opening their eyes and looking at what we have to show them that anyone can see if they really want it. It doesn't take a special pair of they-live sunglasses.
I found that's a big sort of catch-22 in this situation. It is having to say stuff that you shouldn't have to say. Yeah, and I found that unfortunately that's just the way it is. There's a lot of people out there that are, for their own reasons, are either too scared or they just don't want to look or whatever. And it's like, all I can do is keep saying it to them until they eventually get the message.
Yes.
Yeah.
Once they've looked for themselves, then what they do next is up to them.
Yeah.
You know, I try not to push people in any particular direction.
I used to try and work with individuals to get them to somewhere, but look, I figured that if they're not going to pick it up and go themselves, I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah, you have to keep moving, man, because it saves other people behind them.
The one you waste the time on is there's somebody else who may appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's that Bible quote? Somebody mentioned it the other day.
By the way,
don't cast your seeds on stony ground. I think it was something like that.
No pearls before swine and stuff.
Yeah.
And by the way, all you can do is kickstart that thinking process. You can't teach them. I mean, otherwise, all you're doing is passing on your opinions. They're not finding out for themselves and forming their own opinions, their own thoughts, coming to their own conclusions. Sure, you can point them to the research resources.
I do not want to create a whole load of clones of me, of my mentality, my perspective of the world. I don't want that at all.
Is not the way to go.
I'm so glad you brought the Bible up. I'd like to throw another quote out there. And this quote verse has to do with consciousness. And basically, Jesus is telling, and I don't even know if Jesus existed or not. I wasn't around, back in those days. Anyway, so he says to his disciples, I believe, that the Father is in me, and I am in He, and ye are in me, and I am in you. That's paraphrased, but that's basically what it says. John.
I like that.
I think he also said that everything he could do, we could do that and more.
Yeah, exactly.
He was basically telling us that we are him.
Yes.
Well, yeah, that's just another way of putting it.
God is in all of us.
And it really is. It's a story. It's the story of the legal system and the story of enslavement and the story of liberation. That's what it really is. On one level, because there's many levels, on one or the other higher levels, it's all about the legal system. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the financial system.
If you consider the character that is called Jesus the Christed, I prefer to say Jesus the Christed because I think it's more accurate. But if you consider him as an archetype to represent yourself, your true self, and all the other characters in that play, the apostles, the disciples, the prophets, all of them are all other archetypes within that play that describes your own self-realization. This has been my perspective on it for quite a few years now, and I've tried to approach it from different directions to say basically the same thing. But that's more what I got out of it when I was reading it and sort of trying to absorb all the stuff that's in there, because there's so much stuff in there. But it's and why I liked Jung's point of view, I think, because it's coming at it from that aspect. This is trying to show a mirror up to you to reveal your own process. It's not a an outside of you figure. That's the same problem of the authoritarian structure. That's what the authoritarian structure is based on, that you go to an externalization to deal with your problem. Whereas what he was trying to tell you, like in that quote, is that God is within you. You don't need somebody else to come to you and tell you the word of God, because the word is already in you.
Jesus, je suis in French is I am.
Yeah. I am Christ.
An etymologist that I know traces the source of je suis to your earth. So yeah, it is very personal to each and every one of us.
I've also heard it connected to a Hebrew word that means sacrificial, like a burnt offering.
Also can mean Hail Zeus as well. So yeah.
Because there was no J 2,000 years ago. There was no J in the alphabet, so Jesus was not possible. Yeshua maybe. Different names are out there that you look into for yourself if you research it more.
And all the occult connections that really help the case. But yeah.
I think that nicely connected us back to the.
Anyway. That was what religion was for. It was, to keep people bound up in belief and fantasy, not understanding or knowledge.
I could also split it up in a kind of phonetic fashion as well. Ray, legion.
Well, that's why they do.
Legions of Ray.
Yeah, many rays. That's why the Catholic Church that's such a dummy when the Reformation happened and the Bible was starting to be read by learned people in other areas other than the Catholic priests, like the Lutherans and all those other people. They were starting to read the Bible for themselves and understand that, perhaps, it is about us and not just do what the church says or you'll suffer eternal damnation. Once the priests lost that control, they were determined to wipe out every other view, and they still are.
I think the Cathars figured it out as well. Before we even got to the Reformation, there was other little groups that seemed to have figured it out.
Well, put it this way,
kept squishing them.
Every group that the Catholic Church labelled pagan had the right idea.
Yeah.
They didn't burn witches. They burned healers.
They burnt knowledge and experience.
They stole the knowledge. They never burned the knowledge. And they'll keep that for themselves, of course. That's another thing I want to bring up. Knowledge. Libraries. Ever been to a library lately?
No, not for a number of years. For 3-4 years at least, I think.
I was in one the other day. I had a really good look for some interesting books with some interesting information in there. Couldn't find one. Could not find one. And the amount of fiction books that were in the non-fiction section almost blew my mind. Libraries are not what they used to be. They're not repositories of technical information or knowledge. They're fantasy warehouses again now. So you don't have hard copies to go and look at now. Thank God I've got a huge book collection.
It's been like I said, it's been a while since I've physically been in a library, but over the last few years here in the UK, they've been trying to digitise most of the libraries.
Yep, and they're throwing out the old books, Cookie. They're dumping them.
A lot of that structure is going to get. A lot of that structure is going to get absorbed into the cloud-based system, such that they can control the information even more. So that's why I've encouraged people to print stuff out.
Yeah. What's true today may not have been true today in 2 days' time. You know what I mean? If once all the information is electronic, we're fucked.
If you can get a hard copy, if you're able to print out whatever documents and
that's why I have
you've
my own
got and
personal
have a
library
hard
of
copy.
old books, of technical stuff. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's smart for anybody to have, them kind of books. For that reason,
Yeah, I didn't know why I was collecting them when I started, but I do now.
I just liked reading, so I used to buy quite a few. I haven't got a massive library. I've got a few hundred books, but yeah, over the years, more and more, it's been like if I can get hold of it in hard copy, I'd rather have the hard copy. Thank you. Even if I never read it, at least I know it's there, so I can read it if and when I want to.
Yeah, I read a lot as a kid, but I was mostly into fiction, horror fiction, whatever. But I didn't start learning things until I left school, high school.
Yes, me too. I learned a lot more when I left school than ever was learned in school. Like you said,
you're right.
Just training to be a slave.
It's obedience and authoritarian training. That's what it is. That's all it is. It'll break the stronger kids. That's what it's designed to. Yeah. Plus, it's another snitch into the family life as well now. With all that, they have social workers. Everything's kept on record.
That's becoming more and more overt now, where
and people
in the UK
it.
they're talking about the idea of having a social worker for every child in Scotland in particular, trying to bring in this legislation where they have one per child. So in other words, your parenting is taken away from you completely.
Yep. When I take offence, when somebody says to me, if you haven't got something to hide, what are you worried about? Well, you could call me a cunt-faced, cooked-up motherfucking dipshit, and I wouldn't be as offended. When they say that to me, you know what I mean? I don't even know what to say to those people.
It's a fallacy.
What happened to having a private life? There's nothing private anymore? Or has everything got to be out in the open for everybody to see,
It is a fallacy that's been pushed out over the last few years. It's a meme deliberately to try and mess with people's heads, to enable, to legitimise the increase in surveillance state and all that shit. But it's a fallacious point of view, it's a fallacious argument.
The state has convinced people that it's good to have that information, and sharing it with the state is good, and not sharing it is bad somehow, because you must have something evil to hide if you like privacy.
Yeah, live in a glass box. That would suit the system down to a grain. If you live naked in a glass box, keep an eye on you all the time.
A lot of people happily do it.
That's why I didn't ask questions when I went to my daughter's play in the Times Union Center when there was those crime scene unit vans parked up next to the building. I didn't ask anybody like, hey, what the hell are those for? People would probably tell me, oh, those are to protect the kids. And I'm like, if I was to say, well, that's not necessary, people would be like, well, what the fuck are you trying to do? Or what's wrong with you? But I see it as like a fear. It's a fear mongering what they're doing there. They're not there to protect the kids. They already had 6 cop cars around the building. All the cops are around the building. And crime scene unit vans. Are you really planning something? Is something going to happen here? What is this for? But they make it where you can't ask questions because you will look like a crazy person.
Yeah, protect the kids when hundreds of thousands each year go missing in the States alone, and the number grows every time.
Right. The false dilemma. They present you with this limited choice dilemma.
They tell you the opposite of what's true. It's cognitive dissonance.
Using the children as that moral dilemma leverage to make you go along with the false choices. They present you only 2 choices or something like that, and the lead is the fact that think of the children. But really, there's a lot more choices going on here. They just don't tell you about them.
Exactly.
Well, most people are so retarded in their ability to think that they're almost childlike, and that's how they're taught. That's how they're taught to.
Yep.
I want to take this pause to say hello to the chat since I can't converse with them properly or I will crash again. Hello, chat.
Hello to everyone in the chat.
Hey, chat.
Want me to do a roll call, Becky?
What was that?
Want me to say hi to everybody?
Yes,
No.
they know
Okay.
who they are.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, let's continue there.
Hello, Rebecca.
Hello.
Yeah. I had something else to say, and I forgot what it was.
The chat has picked up as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there. I can't read all of it. There's too much. It's going fairly quickly, so yeah. People are happily chatting away.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's Jamin and Brian. Yeah. Hi, guys.
Howdy.
Thanks for joining us.
Ready to go.
Link's at the bottom if you guys want to join.
Yes, the link is below if anybody wants to join.
Yeah. I've heard it called the against me position, where somebody's willing to call the police on you for something that they're not even threatened by, or someone's willing to dob you into the authorities, for, say, watering your lawn, for example. It's the against me principle. They're willing to set on you authorities who are armed with deadly weapons for no reason at all. I mean, you've done them no harm. You wouldn't even know,
It's like I'd be outside the store taking pictures of the chemtrails and somebody ran in the store and said, "There's somebody in the parking lot taking pictures of everybody."
What the heck?
I'm like, really? It's pointed up, not down.
Exactly.
People are paranoid as hell,
Look, I know single men who won't go to the swimming pool by themselves. The fear of being pointed out as a perv. Seriously.
It's ridiculous.
I know blokes, you feel uncomfortable if you talk to a child because you're wondering what the hell are people going to be saying.
Yeah, that's actually why I joined these chats, is because I've been constantly brainwashed by these CSI, Law and Order, 48, First 48. You live under fear, like your neighbor is going to kill you, rape you, stab you, chop up your children. Just the craziest shit. And actually, there is a show called Your Neighbor Will Kill You.
I remember when I was a kid, man, we never locked our damn doors, Now, you lock every door, every window, your car's locked, everything's locked up,
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Living in constant paranoia and fear, it's not healthy.
No, it's not.
They need
so
to
many
to maintain the control, like I mentioned before.
Got so many drug abusers around too. It's.
Well, really, that's self-medication.
Well,
a lot of those people, the victims of maybe their own silly choices and that, some of circumstances, but
Or they can become aware of the way the world is, and that's their way of dealing with it, just
that's
blocking it out, Don't want to face it.
Yeah. But I mean, I live in a freaking trailer park, right? And we've had 2 ODs, 2 deaths in the last 2 years.
Well, that's all they're doing. They're just killing themselves, but
Holy
slowly.
shit, where are you at? North Carolina?
No.
My friend just told me that. She lives in a trailer park and just literally told me, the other day, she's had 2 ODs in the past 2 years.
No, I live in West Virginia, and it's right here in this area where I live. If it wasn't for my girlfriend's 2 sons, who are like 37 or 38 years old, I would be. I'd have a shotgun here in the house, you know.
Very good. Yeah, I'm talking in the chat about how everything has made everybody paranoid, and Cookie has made many mentions about how the media has made people compartmentalize themselves into which order they wanted to go. If they wanted to be the fucking Kim Kardashian order, where all they do is they choose this side of the media and they do makeup, hair, you know, debt, you know, that's it. That's all you think about, and everything else is trash. And then you have this other way you can think about where you're just a hunter and you just hunt to kill, and you hunt anything and you kill everything and you buy guns for no reason, and you don't really know, what, you're just spending money arbitrarily or
something
and
for
nobody's
everyone,
really,
right?
yeah, there's something for everybody, and everybody's compartmentalizing themselves, and it's a great way to not come together and have fun doing what you love while helping out each other. There's ways for us to find that, I feel, and
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I was sitting here an hour ago, 2 hours ago, and the trailer next door. I thought that they were over there fighting, like maybe the husband and wife or a couple of guys, or I really didn't know, and it was loud, through the trailer walls. It's not that they're not that thick, right? And a thought crossed my mind of calling the police, because the woman's not really big, and the guy, her husband, he's a pretty good sized fella. But then I thought, fuck it, man, and if it don't quieten down in the next hour, I'll call the police, right? Well, it did quieten down, and then my girlfriend's going to take me out to get a pack of cigarettes because I don't drive anymore, and comes to find out that they were moving. I didn't even know they were moving, and the guy with the U-Haul truck backed the truck up so far and caught the guy that was helping him, caught his ankle between the steps and the metal part of the truck, right? And so that's what was going on. He was screaming his friggin', yeah. So when I got in the car to go get the cigarettes, I was like, well done there, keep your mouth shut and go on,
Yeah. Well, yeah, but even chances, being dead if the cops had turned it up, these days.
Oh yeah, if it would have kept on, it might have been something different, because they I think that's why they were moving anyway.
I'll never call cops ever.
Yeah.
That cops don't prevent crime. They do not prevent crime. They don't solve it either.
And they make revenue.
Well, I have to say one thing. Here in West Virginia, the ones that I've had to deal with in the last, say, 6 or 7 years have been so goddamn polite that I just can't believe some of the shit that goes on in these other states where people are getting murdered. I call it murder when a cop shoots you when you got your hands up,
I call it a lotto win if you come across a polite one.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's just, I was on my way to work here a few years ago, 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, I'm just generalizing, but everybody's different. Of course, there's going to be the odd human policeman, but he'll never go far in that job. In fact, I'd be surprised if he makes it through retirement.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I know a detective not far from here. He's murdered at least 5 or 6 people, and they know where the bodies are. He'll never be charged.
Oh shit!
Of course not.
No.
You're living in the UK or Great Britain or something?
It's Australian.
Oh, Australia. Shit.
Yeah.
Now that I can understand down there. You know, they got a place here in the States called Utah where they had a suicide by they double tapped him in the head and called it a suicide in Moab, Utah. You know.
It's like that one that killed himself while his hands were handcuffed behind his back.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
We had a suicide in the street down here. A woman apparently killed herself with a hammer. I don't know how she could do that.
Yeah, really.
Oh my God.
Apparently there was blood on the light bulb.
Damn. Yeah, how many shots did she take to the head, though?
I don't know that many details. But,
yeah.
I know it was a hammer. I know it was real suicide.
Yeah, maybe one shot to the head, but if it was more than one, I can't see myself hitting myself in the head twice because that shit hurts.
Well, I had a guy up here. He was murdered by a few members of a motorcycle club gang. Yeah, only one of them went to jail for it, did some jail time, but there was 5 of them when it happened. 4 of them.
Down in the outback?
No, oh well, we're not that much removed from the outback here. No.
No, but it's still Australia. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We tried to have a revolution once. It was called the Eureka Stockade, but we didn't have any Rothschild bankers. So we didn't have a hope in hell.
Yeah, but you guys turned over your guns here, what, about 4 or 5 years ago? And then the next thing I heard was the home invasions shot straight up.
It wasn't my choice, mate.
Yeah. But how about the home invasion stuff? Did you hear anything about that?
Yeah. Crime rose immediately. Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Just checking, double checking. I mean, it's nice to talk to somebody, you know, that lives at least in the country, you know.
Yeah, and the police now, we don't have any guns in the country, but the police walk around in body armor all the time. And they just upgraded. They used to have revolvers, you know, 38 specials. They've just upgraded to Glock 9mm pistols, you know, 13, 14 shot pistols.
Yeah.
And they use hollow point ammunition.
Yeah.
That's more or less saying that they see all the citizens as the enemy.
They're executioners.
Yeah, that's
the people who get shot by Victorian police actually survive. I don't know of any, actually.
Now, what was that again?
I don't know of anyone in this state, you know, Victoria, that's been shot by police and survived.
Oh, damn.
Not one.
Well, that's what they teach you in the academy nowadays. When you shoot, if you know the line that they give to the public is they shoot not to kill. You know, they shoot them. It's supposed to shoot them in the leg or the arm, whatever, right? But when the actual police teaching the class comes in and teaching shoot, don't shoot, he says you kill them, you shoot to kill because that's just one less witness against you.
They are indoctrinated to be afraid of us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And have you ever seen a cop shoot anybody in the arm or leg? Never?
There's an incident here a few years ago where this man got pulled over and the state trooper, you know, he attacked him with a box cutter, I believe, and cut him. And he was running away from him, and the trooper shot him in the head. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, shoot a man in the back. That's just fucked up, you know.
Yeah, you don't want to piss off a low-level psychopath with a gun when you haven't got one.
Yeah, yeah. Bringing a knife to a gunfight ain't the right thing to do. Yeah.
And this guy wasn't even in his right mind. You know, he was, you know, I think he was drunk or something. You know.
Yeah. It's a little wonder most of the people around here are pretty compliant.
Yeah, but it's the criminals, you know. How they doing?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not the law-abiding citizenry you have to worry about. It's
You mean
everybody else.
The real criminals, they're doing well. They've got golden pensions, private jets. You know.
Oh, shit. Yeah. Sounds like
I'm
New
gonna-
York.
I'm going to call it a night, folks. It's just coming up 1 a.m. here.
Oh.
No,
Thanks for your company, Cookie.
Hello, yes.
I was wondering if you were asleep yet. So.
I'm getting there. I'm starting to yawn, and I don't want to yawn because I think that's rude. So,
well,
thanks
love you,
for the chat.
You're the best.
Thanks for your company. I enjoyed talking with you, man.
Same here, Cookie.
Thanks everybody in the chat room as well. There's loads of people still chatting there. So,
Yeah.
I will speak to you again soon. Take care, folks. Good night.
You
Talk
too.
to you
Good night.
later, Cook.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Good night.
Good night.
Yeah, that's what it's like here.
Oh, my 3-year-old just woke up. I hear her yelling at her dad.
Yeah.
I ran her ragged today, and then I did not want her to go to sleep, but as soon as I turned around, my husband had a blanket and pillow for her on the couch. I was like, no!
Yeah.
You screwed us both! You screwed us both!
Yeah.
Because now she's
Our 2-year-old. Our 2-year-old went to bed at 5:30 yesterday evening. She was up at 6 this morning.
Oh Lord.
Saturday morning.
My little one, she's 9 and she still does that. So yeah. Crack it on.
Oh, no kidding. Other 2-year-olds do that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, they do that, especially if you let them and enable them.
She's 9, but she still does that.
Yeah.
It's hard to get about a schedule, but what you do, you have to try to stick to it. My husband, though, he stays up all night playing video games, and he says, but she keeps me company. So Sophie will be up all night with her dad playing video games.
Well, yeah. That's it. If he can play a video game with a 2-year-old by his side, Well, I never played much video games. I played chess, and I definitely can't play chess with a 2-year-old around.
Yeah, and you gotta watch them video games too, because they use that to get kids to join the army and operate them drones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Remind everybody, if you want to join us, the link's below.
Yeah, I'm trying to invite a couple other people in the meantime. Well, does anybody want to talk about consciousness?
Yes, that's why we're here.
Yeah, anybody got an opinion they want to spit out?
Are you there?
Who?
Heather and Jay. I think
Oh.
Heather had to deal with her kid. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm happy to let somebody else talk for a while. Yes. I want to go to the toilet, really.
Yeah, me too here in a minute.
Does it slide? Oh my god, it slides on the stove again.
Okay.
Skateboard slides on the stove again.
I'm dealing with kids here myself. I have to mute every so often too.
Yeah, me too.
It slides.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the chat's kind of slowed down.
Yeah, I can't really get in it. Last time I did, that's why I dropped out. Trying to talk in the chat.
Cookie Monster didn't jump in.
Huh?
Cookie Monster didn't jump in.
Yeah, he just said goodnight to him. So yeah.
Oh, that was Cookie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah.
He's a pretty cool dude, man. I like listening to him.
Yeah. I was hoping there's a few others would join, but I guess, they were busy tonight, so. They're in
Yeah.
UK too, so it's, late for them, so.
Right.
A good chat overall, I believe. So.
Yeah, Heather, she's muted. I think that's the first time I've met her in a chat.
And we're trying to get some more hangouts going there through the week,
Right. You gonna do anything tomorrow?
Yeah, I do it at noon, religion and politics, so, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Right up my alley.
Yeah, it's a
Drop
good one.
me an invite as soon as you get set up.
Alrighty then. I can't tell how long we've been on here because my YouTube is totally messed up. So.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't been really a whole long, maybe since since around 5:30. That's what it was.
Not 2
West
hours.
Virginia time. Yeah. So that's good. I mean, you get a little exposure out there, and people will be coming this way. Because this was a calm chat. There wasn't any cussing each other out and calling each other names, and people getting mad and storming off like I've done a few times.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for here. To keep the peace, so to speak.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody should be entitled to their opinion, and be able to speak it without getting yelled at. So.
It's pretty easy to be civil, really.
I
don't see why people find it so hard. Anyway.
Oh, well. Let me know after you met a guy named Gus. I'm not sure what his last name is, but he goes into chats with capital E, lowercase m, capital K, and
I think I saw them earlier on the Hangout. Yeah.
Yeah, you want to listen for a few minutes before you jump in there, because he just jumps down people's throats, man.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah. I wasn't able to join because I had to get this Hangout going. So I didn't want to join.
Yeah,
actually.
I was gonna say you was better off. Yeah.
You'd be brave if you joined that chat. Yes.
Now I've been in a chat with him and Cookie.
Yeah.
And they seem to get along, but there's another guy named Brad that he's an atheist, I believe was his stick, and they were having the God atheist, can you prove? Yeah. It was just a waste of my hour that I listened.
Yeah, I really don't worry about that stuff. We're here, and that's what we need to focus on. So.
Exactly right.
I see that kind of them kind of discussions really is a distraction. So.
Yeah.
If we have the chance to focus, let's focus on positivity.
Yes.
If some of us are moving so fast to keep up, to try to keep our head above the water, or even our nose, maybe just the lips. Some of us are really struggling, but if we have a chance to focus, we should always remind each other to focus on the positivity. We should always remind each other to focus on helping each other out. And that paranoia is put there by the media so that we don't help each other, so that we do set up our caste systems, so that we are separating each other from the goodness that we could share.
Yes.
Because we do have different opinions. Hell yeah. But it's okay.
That's what makes us human, yeah.
That's what makes it funny sometimes.
For sure.
You know, you crazy Aunt Joe keeps on reciting that same old story about the Bible. You know, just crazy stuff. And it's fun, it's fine, and it's good information as long as it's like from a good place and it's helpful. It doesn't even have to be helpful. It's
But it's good if it's helpful.
yeah, that's good if it's helpful.
Yeah. If it's helpful, it's good.
That's this, like Bruce Lee says, absorb what is useful and reject what is useless.
Say that again.
Absorb what is useful and reject
Ah,
what is useless. Something
yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I like his sayings, man.
Oh yeah.
But there's so much useful out there.
Mhm.
What did he say?
You can take a lot of good use from everything.
Oh yeah, yeah. Turning the lemons into lemon pie or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wisdom in the Chinese culture. It's a lot older than what we have to draw on.
Mhm.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Around 6,000 years, I think they've been around. Now, don't quote me on that. But, they were,
Yeah, it's definitely in the thousands.
yeah.
Oh
And they've had some very good thinkers over the years too.
And then Bruce Lee got taken away from us, man, just when he was
At his peak.
Yeah. Even
did you know that?
Go ahead.
You loved Bruce Lee for a short time.
Yeah.
Nothing. I was making a terrible joke.
Not in long time.
Only short time with Bruce Lee. Only short time.
And then Muhammad Ali, man, I don't know what you think about him, but I thought he was a pretty cool dude. He had his problems like the rest of us, but I really feel for him. He's got Parkinson's, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
wonder if he has marijuana or if he's using cannabis to help him with that.
Oh, I don't know.
And Michael J. Fox as well.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I figure Michael J. does for sure. Probably Muhammad Ali.
Old boxers never retire. They just get ring rust.
That's for sure.
Yeah, did you know that the Japanese actually got their martial arts from the Chinese originally?
No, I didn't know that.
That's how karate began.
Yeah.
In China?
It was some Okinawan fishermen. They got blown off, of course, and they ended up in China. And they learned martial arts from there and brought it back to Japan.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, I used to do martial arts, American martial arts, and my teacher's teacher was taught by not Bruce Lee, but that other guy, that Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Was taught by Chuck Norris, and Chuck Norris was taught by Bruce Lee, or was one of his students, right? And so they called it American Taekwondo.
Yeah.
I studied Kojukai Karate, which is an original Okinawan form. That's how come I know the history of it. My sensei was a 5th Dan black belt.
My sensei was only a 3rd degree black belt.
Yeah.
He was still fast for an old guy.
Yeah. Oh man, sensei, man, you wouldn't touch him. But the training was very traditional. It was excellent.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. It was a really good, solid basis for further, things that I did later.
Yeah, exactly.
Just about anything else I did, I could excel at it because of that.
I see.
For example, after studying about 5 years of karate, I go in and learn Taekwondo. Well, I didn't have to learn Taekwondo very long, before I put instructors on the ground all the time.
Yeah.
I moved on and learned boxing, but nobody would fight me. Man.
Yeah, when you know how to throw a punch, really. Excuse me.
Yeah, but I picked up a few interesting things from boxing too, you know, so you just pick up things from different places. I think, you know, Bruce Lee was a lot like that himself. He sort of made his own style.
Oh, yeah, he developed his own style.
Yes.
I can't remember what it was called now, but
Jeet Kune Do.
Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
Jeet Kune Do.
yeah. And that fight with him and Jabbar, that basketball player.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah. Did you see that? I think it was Return of the Enter the Dragon or something. That was cool.
Yep.
That big footprint on Bruce Lee's chest.
Yeah, I got all those movies.
Oh, do you? Oh, that's great, man.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I only have what Netflix and Hulu has. So.
Yeah. That's all I got right now too. You know.
I didn't mind the movie that Bruce Lee's son did. You know, portraying him in his life. I can't. What was it called?
Crow? The Crow.
No, the Dragon. It might have been called.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I never heard of that one.
Yeah,
it was his story of how he came to America and got into the films and stuff.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's good watch.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, I liked it. Mm-hmm.
Did any Rebecca? Have you seen on Netflix or Hulu a TV series called Gotham?
I haven't watched it, but you know the kids.
Okay. Well, it's like Batman when he was 11, and his parents get killed, and so he's all through the series so far. He's just 11, or you know, and he's trying to figure out who killed his parents and stuff. But the thing that I brought that up for was the way they portray the criminal element merged with the local city government and the judges and the police. You know how the judges and the police are in the pockets of the gangsters who, you know.
Man, wouldn't have took too much imagination to figure that one out.
Oh yeah. But I mean, it's good that it's a popular series and that the kids are watching it and it's like it's the way it is, you know.
Yeah. The problem is they think it's bloody fictional then.
Yeah. Maybe so, but in the long run, I hope that that they remember, as they grow older, and because I remember the Batman comic books, man, were an influence on me, and it didn't have nearly as much of this government criminal element combined in it. It just had basically comic books.
Very quiet on that up until not that long ago.
Yeah.
For good reasons. Yeah.
And Superman, of course, he's kind of died out, though. I mean, they took him in the comic books as of lately, I guess, the last 10 or so years. He went from a regular white guy,
Yeah. Now, but on another level, right? He's a transhumanist, from another planet, like almost like a fallen angel kind of thing, And that S on his chest, man, looks a hell of a lot like a snake.
Yeah. See, I never paid any attention to it once it changed.
You've never seen no S's written like that.
No, I'll check it out the next chance I get.
Yeah, there's a head up the top of it, and it looks like a snake's head.
Yeah, makes sense.
Very interesting, and the colors, actually, the red and blue, very telling as well.
They're real dark now, right? In the comic books.
No, probably so. Again, things work on a subconscious level. Darker colours, darker times. Ominousness.
Yeah.
Things work on a variety of levels.
Hey, I'll be right back.
The whole red blue thing is definitely a subconscious trigger. Your major political parties use that all the time. They do it here too.
In the Matrix too, the red pill and the blue pill.
Exactly, and there's a reason that those two colours are on emergent, police cars. There's a reason that those two colours are on the police cars as well. Every time you see those lights, you get a weird feeling. Every time.
Mm-hmm.
It does something to the consciousness.
Well, those are two primary colors.
And the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. And then, okay, so that's like a primal knowledge, I guess, or a primal...
Or fire and both of which are dangerous.
But then at the same time, it's like that from a child, like blue and white lights or blue and red lights. The president's in blue and red, so it's like in the media. It's definitely like ingrained into the psyche.
Yeah.
That blue
and red.
Your training
starts the day you take your first breath, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I tried to make sure that I nurse my kids to try to prevent some of that, because
just to try and encourage thinking and reading. Yeah.
That's a natural thing. Like there was a time where they encouraged formula for children, because it's easier. Then the mother can go and do lots of work, make sure her husband's happy, make sure dinner's on the table. Maybe even get a job if the baby's formula fed. That way she can dump the kid with somebody else and, get the institution to continue to
the less time a mother spends with
baby.
the child, the less bonding there is. And,
the less knowledge the baby knows. The less the kid has a chance of gaining his own perspective. You're ripping them from. I mean, it's not like the mother's going to be there brainwashing the kid, but you're leaving the child in its natural environment. When you take them out of that, you're throwing all that. And immediately, I feel like it throws.
And putting on formula does deprive them of the custom tailor-made nutrients for them that are all there. Nature provides.
I
know someone who finds it hard, and it's not always the easiest.
No, it is difficult. It is difficult, but there's a lot of support. There's a lot of help, and like if it wasn't for that easy way out, there would be nothing else anyway. It would be.
In days of yore, when family were a little closer, you'd have someone in your family who was milking at the same time, and they would feed your baby if you had trouble.
My friend did tell me when I was a long time ago, her mother and her aunt would switch kids if need be, or would nurse for each other. And and she was nervous about telling us that me and my best friend, we're all three best friends, but absolutely not. That's a natural thing, and they were family too, especially. It's a beautiful story. It's a wonderful story. I'd love to hear that.
In different species, animals will sometimes do it for each other. It's perfectly natural, and you see natural has been twisted 180 degrees to become unnatural. And everything unnatural now is natural. I know somebody who works in a hospital up here that does all the births for the area. And virtually all the births are cesarean now.
Oh, they try to push it so hard. They put chemicals and medicines in you so you cannot push out your baby. Yeah. And then go, well, you can't do it, so let's cut you open so we can charge the insurance company because it's going to work for our bills. And...
They are thinking like a business manager, it's quicker, get them in, cut them open, get it out.
Get her out. Yeah, plus it makes a good bill for the insurance company, so they're not losing in any aspect there.
And the surgeon gets to work,
Baby gets ripped away from the mother, does not get placed right on the mother's chest. The baby will have to go away from the mother.
Yep.
And eventually the mother will go to sleep and not be able to have the cognitive skills to give that baby a good chance.
Yeah,
It's just that first step they'll try to ruin.
Decades of dehumanization that has been going on. All part of it. That's going to be the new normal, and natural birth will be seen as something repellent soon.
Mhm.
That's how they change things.
Oh yeah. Oh, kids.
Well, does anybody want to give it up till tomorrow, 12 p.m.?
Yes, that's what I was about to say. Call it a night here. And, we'll still be here
Sure.
for
I
the
need to
after
go and
chat. We'll still be here for the after chat. If anybody wants to join after the fact, they don't want to go live, so the link will still work. So, thanks for joining everybody in the chat, and remember, peace and love, and to help each other. Love y'all.
Bye.
Love y'all. Bye.
Love y'all.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye now.